It happened at 12:35 p.m., right in the middle of the school courtyard, during lunch hour. 200 students stood frozen. Phones came out. Mouths dropped. And in the center of it all, Layla stood still, one cheek stinging red from the force of the slap, delivered by a bully who thought she'd break. But Layla didn't cry. She didn't scream. What she did next changed everything. Layla Khan was known as the quiet girl. 17 years old, always sitting in the front row, always with her nose buried in a book. She was the kind of girl who teachers loved but students ignored, or worse, mocked. It wasn't because she was weird. It was because she didn't try to fit in. She didn't wear designer clothes, didn't join in on the gossip, and never posted selfies. She was just different. And in high school, different is dangerous. The bullies were led by Zara Malik, the most popular girl in school, with a sharp tongue and an even sharper sense of entitlement. She was everything Layla wasn't. Loud, confident, and always surrounded by a crowd that echoed her cruelty. For months, Zara and her clique had made Layla their favorite target, tripping her in hallways, mocking her accent, even tearing pages from her notebooks. Layla never retaliated. She took the abuse silently. Most people assumed she was weak. But that assumption was about to be shattered. It all came to a boiling point during the school's annual cultural fair. Layla had been selected to recite a poem she had written herself, a beautiful piece about resilience, identity, and strength. It was the first time anyone had seen her speak in public, and the auditorium was packed. She stood tall on stage, reciting every line with trembling but determined confidence. For once, people listened. For once, they clapped. Zara didn't like that. At lunch the next day, surrounded by a crowd of students, Zara confronted Layla in the courtyard. "You think you're special now, huh?" she sneered, her voice laced with venom. Layla didn't respond. She never did. And that's when Zara slapped her. The sound echoed. Students gasped. Some laughed. Others filmed. A few whispered in shock. But no one stepped in. Layla stood still, the red mark glowing on her face. She looked Zara in the eyes, truly looked, and said softly, "Thank you." Zara blinked. "What?" "Thank you for showing them who you really are." Then, with calm dignity, Layla turned to the crowd, her voice louder now, steady. "You all saw that. You all filmed it. But how many of you will say something? How many of you laughed yesterday at my poem, but stayed quiet today when I was hit?" The courtyard went silent. The weight of her words hung in the air. "I'm not afraid of being slapped. I'm afraid of a world where people see injustice and stay silent. Where cruelty gets applause and kindness is seen as weakness." Her words hit harder than any slap. That evening, the video went viral. Not just of the slap, but of Layla's speech after. She was invited to speak on podcasts, youth forums, even national news. Her poem got published in local newspapers. People, students and strangers alike, flooded her inbox with messages of support. And slowly, the narrative began to shift. Zara was suspended. Her parents tried to defend her, but the footage was undeniable. Other students began apologizing to Layla, some privately, others publicly. Even teachers who once turned a blind eye began addressing bullying more seriously. But the real transformation wasn't in the school. It was in Layla. She started a student group called Voices Unheard, a safe space for anyone who felt silenced, overlooked, or mistreated. It grew fast. Students who had never spoken before found the courage to share their stories. Victims became leaders. Silence turned into strength. Layla didn't just rise from the pain. She used it to lift others. 1 year later, during her graduation speech, Layla stood at the podium once again. But this time, the applause wasn't hesitant, it was thunderous. The same school that once mocked her now stood in awe of her strength. She ended her speech with the same words she said that day in the courtyard. "Thank you for showing them who you really are. Because now, I know exactly who I am."